It is 7 o'clock. We're going to call the public hearing for the proposed ordinance amendment for July 8th, 2025. It is now 7 p.m. And this is public hearing proposed for the proposed amendment to the town ordinance 5-2 boat regulations. The draft of the ordinance is posted on the town website. And now we open the floor up to public comment for the proposed amendment in town ordinance for 5-2 boating regulations.
I just want to note that the only change on it, besides updating the names of who needs to sign off on it, was to add a code that the police department needed in order for them to do certain enforcement. So I'm trying to remember what it was because I got a copy that's not highlighted on. It was like 3 letters.
Yeah,
So
I think it was like 3
Chief, was there,
dash.
do you recall the new notation? It was just a small change for the...
It was adding in something. Yep, it was adding in NR5.
Thank you.
NR5.
NR5. I think it was 3 letters. Yep.
And that was...
There's 2 different chapters that we enforce on the lake under Chapter 30 and Chapter NR5. NR5 was not noted in our ordinance properly, so we need to make that clarification in the ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, if there's any notation for the public?
Yeah, Kerry Denson, N6545 Sherwood Hills Road, Town of Lake Mills. My question was, what is the amendment? I mean, I read through the whole thing, and looking at it on the website,
It's one little highlighted blip is all it was.
NR5,
Adding in
NR5.
and that's it.
That's
Yep.
it.
And what exactly did that do? I mean, I looked under chapter 30 after I got through 3 screens of definitions of what a boat is and how to put numbers on them. But exactly what does NR5 do for
So we
us?
enforce all of those laws to begin with.
Okay,
It's just that we have to note it in our ordinance that we are enforcing, and we have been enforcing it.
so that's the whole amendment. It was
That's the
just
whole amendment.
that those 3 NR5 that was in yellow.
Yep.
That's it.
One big meeting.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. I guess with that, I will ask for a motion for the adjournment of the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved for the adjournment of the public hearing for Town Ordinance 5-2 boating regulations and the proposed amendment, although very small, very important for the regulations moving forward. All those, any additional discussion from the board?
None.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. And we are adjourned. And we are now moving on to the town board meeting dated July 8th, 2025 at the town hall. It is 7:03. We're calling to order for this meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I get a motion for the adoption of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Oh, sorry, skipped a step. It has been moved for the adoption of the agenda for tonight, July 8th, 2025. Is there any further discussion?
Is there, again, correspondence on the agenda?
Did I miss adding it again? I sure as heck did.
Okay. I don't know if it needs to be added. I saw one thing regarding wake boating along the south shore that someone sent us.
Okay.
So
Yep, that
whether
should
there
be
was
back
any
on
other
there, and I keep
correspondence
missing.
other than that.
Yeah.
So
So we can amend, it's not gonna change any actions that you guys would take. We can add that to tonight's agenda if that's what you'd like to do.
Sure,
Okay.
please.
Make that as part of the motion to.
Okay. There has been a motion to amend tonight's agenda for July 8th to add correspondence.
Can you agree to amend that, your motion, John?
Yes.
Okay, and then Tracy, you agree to that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then you can call the question.
What's that?
Then you can call the question.
Okay. It's been a motion to amend the agenda for tonight. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. The agenda has been amended.
And we'll add that where it normally is towards the end of the agenda.
Yes. With that amendment, can we get a motion to adopt that new amended agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion after it's been moved for that adoption of the agenda? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes from the town meeting on June 10th?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved for the approval of the minutes from June 10th, 2025. Any further discussion?
I just have a question regarding the liquor license. Should I wait to get to that when it's on the agenda?
Is
I thought
it
we
anything in
approved that before and it's up again.
Which, is it in regards to what's printed on the minutes, or is it a different?
I just don't understand why it's up again versus what's in the minutes with
It's
Plaza
a
One or something
second
like
one.
that.
It's a second one for that location for a different type of business.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you answered my question. I moved to approve the minutes already. That was my
Perfect.
question. I don't have any further comments.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries for the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion for the approval of the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved for the approval of the treasurer's report. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Can I get a motion for the approval of the town board expense sheets?
So moved.
I had one for $31.62 to get a lockbox
An
for,
additional one that was on the expense sheet?
that's the same one, just so you guys can actually review the expense.
Okay, so I guess you can view
You
it.
always have to initial. You should actually initial the bottom that you guys are approving it for
Just
the
here?
records.
You too.
Okay.
And why we do that before we approve the actual disbursements is because that way those expenses are approved before they're dispensed.
Thank you.
Robert, can I ask a question on the treasurer's report?
Yeah.
So on the treasurer's report, it shows the reserve balance for the squad car. Here it is.
That'd be more Sharon's question then.
Okay, so we used money out of there to purchase the boat with the idea that we would, when we sold the old boat, that money would go back in there. So the fund right now is at $2,520. We sold the old boat and we
Right.
received that check in June or July, or June.
June, I put it in capital outlay reserve, but I can put it in, if you want it in the police car reserve.
That was my understanding with the other board, that when we bought the boat, we were gonna take money from that squad car to use it towards the new boat, and then when we sold the old boat, whatever we received for that would go back into that squad car, because we used money from there for the purchase.
Understood.
So, not that any change, but that's the discussion that we had when we purchased the boat.
I wasn't sure which one to put it in, but I will do that.
Sounds fair to me.
Okay.
So go back to expense sheets now. Do we have a motion on that yet?
Yes, they started that, yes. Let's
Amend the motion?
amend the motion.
Okay, what he asked isn't regarding the expense sheets.
Okay. That was
So you
just
don't have to
moving.
amend anything.
Okay.
That was actually for the conversation prior to the expense sheets.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Then I would leave that alone and we'll continue with the motion. Did you,
Who motioned, Tracy?
you
John, you
seconded?
Right.
it,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It's been moved for the approval of the town board expense sheets. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. I'll make a motion for the approval of the general vouching fund.
I'll second.
Do you want to read the total?
What was the total on there? Yeah, sorry.
I left my copy on my printer at
It's at
home.
the bottom, yeah.
So it's $81,077.69.
There's the new one.
Usually we read the total when we're saying the motion, just so you know.
Understood. It's been moved for the approval of the general vouching fund
Who seconded that one?
I did.
You did, okay, thank you.
with a total of $81,077.69. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Reports, police report.
All right, for June, the public events that we were involved in or participated in, we were at Lake Mills Night Out in June. We also participated in the Town and Country Days Parade. We had a squad in the parade, and then we also did traffic control because the city was short in a couple of locations, so I assisted, Brian assisted, and then he was in the parade. And then, not to be political or anything, there was that No Kings event in June that happened downtown in Lake Mills. We happened to have officers working out on the boat on that day. They were doing boat patrol. They were requested by the city to come towards the park and just, there was apparently a lot of people. I wasn't down there. There was 75 people and there was only one officer working in the city. And they asked us to just be in the area in case there were any issues. There were none. We were there for maybe a half hour and then we went back to the boat and did our thing. So upcoming events that we have will be at Waterloo in August. They have their night out event. So we're going to go out there with the truck and the boat. They've asked us to be there in Waterloo. So training wise, in June we had 3 officers that attended seated boat OWI enforcement. So myself and 2 other officers attended that training, which was held in Dodge County in Juneau. And then myself and 1 other officer attended CPR, AED, first aid training or refresher training at the Lake Mills Fire Department in June as well. And then coming up this month, still in July, we'll have firearms training. We've had the boat out this month in June. We've also had a little bit of road patrol. So total hours patrol-wise for the boat in June was just over 58 hours of patrol time on the boat. And then, like I said, we call it exempt time for reporting to the state. We had 3 of us who attended training for OWI enforcement. So that counts as 24 hours of exempt time as well, since there were 3 of us that attended that, and then some admin time. So in June, we were out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. We were out 11 days in June. We wrote 11 citations for the month of June and issued 24 warnings in June for the boat. We had just about 6 hours of road patrol time in June, and most of that has just been following up with complaints. Most of it has just been following up with lawns that need mowing, hedges that need trimming, different things along that nature. Parking complaints, fence complaints, all sorts of stuff like that is what we've been dealing mostly with. So,
Awesome. How's the chip working out for the ice cream? Still going?
still giving those out?
Still
You'd have to
received,
ask how they're getting them over there, but they are well received on our end.
Okay, good, good. Still a good promo, I think. You're getting a ticket, but you get a free ice cream.
That's right. The kids love the ice cream, the parents not the tickets.
Yeah,
so much,
All right, thanks, Chief. Plan Commission report.
There's no plan commission meeting held in July, so there is no plan commission report.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question regarding that.
Yep.
We were sent something on multifamily along V or whatever. Is that just
That's
city
just a-
informing us?
That's the city just informing us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, John?
None.
You're good? All right. Chief Russ, you want to give your report to us?
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you guys all got the updated report for the month. I did do something new this time. Kind of gives a brief breakdown of stuff that's going on in the department, kind of almost a recap of what our quarterly meetings are, but this way it kept up with it on a monthly basis. So some of the stuff that we've got going on, 38 staff, we've had a few people leave, which is very unfortunate, and we kind of run the roller coaster of ups and downs with staffing. Hopefully we'll be getting a few people, so if anybody knows anybody who wants to join, I see some bright young faces in the crowd. If you want to help on out, you're all more than welcome to put in an application. We even take cops, so. With that being said, so other department updates, we've been working on the Wisconsin Emergency Medical Ground Transport, which is Medicaid's saying that, hey, we know we've been underfunding Medicaid transports for services. Submit us your numbers and we'll see if we can give you any money back. We completed that. Everything's on for desk review right now for the 2023 and 24 season. I'm really not expecting a lot back. Another topic was the Wisconsin DNR FFP. It's the Forestry Fire Protection Grant. Lake Mills, we've never had a UTV. We've always kind of depended on our neighbors. We have the Glacial Drumlin Trail, we've got the Lake Mills wildlife areas. There's just a lot of area that is rural, off the roadway, that technically we can't get to. We do house 3 brush trucks, which is more than most other departments. We've always just kind of laid kind of back on that. The problem with when you submit for this FFP grant, UTVs are one of the last things that are funded, so hopefully there's money left over and they'll look favorably on us with having a large area and having the DNR right here in our own town. But we'll see where that goes. Hopefully we'll hear back within about 3 months is normally about where they're at. Major accidents on the highway obviously is one of our main things. I might be contacting you guys because on the north side of the road, is that Shore? Can't remember the street name right off the top of my head right now. North Shore Road. We get a lot of cars piling up there trying to get video footage, photos, which is kind of very unfortunate. I look at it and say, if you want to see what we see, join the fire department, you'll see it enough, but these people want to get out and take videos and they're clogging up the roadways. So just a heads up if we do call you out there for that.
Is that during an accident?
Yeah, yeah. And we're getting 3, 4, 5 cars deep piled up out there, and then people are trying to get through on North Shore, and so it's blocking up the roadway. Again, it all depends on where the accident happens and if they can see from there. But just FYI, we might be calling you for hopefully getting people off there. We had a lake rescue. It was a boater that got stranded out on the lake, and then there was a lot of confusion. One of them got back to shore. They swam from basically almost Korth Point back to Sandy Beach, which is a very long swim. Luckily that we were not searching for a body at that time. He did make it back and then made his way around the lake until he found somebody that would take him out there with a pontoon and get his buddy back. So all was successful that night at least. Working on our final CIP for this year, which is our portable radio upgrade. The radios are in, but the antennas are back ordered, which is unique. Public relations, all fire inspections for the first part of 2025 were completed, and July 1st we started the second half. We assisted with National Night Out as well. Our firehouse, safety house was a hit, which is a new addition to our public ed. Vehicle updates, with every new vehicle you kind of get glitches here and there, but we've been working through. Reliant Apparatus has been wonderful with coming over and taking care of those. Small coolant sensor replacement, but last month was 9 hours of training were available for each member. Topics covered rescues from multiple levels, thermal imaging operations, firefighter maydays, water rescue operations, boat driving, boat trailer backing, and driver training. You can't use the boat unless you know how to put it in the water, so we figured the backing was also a pretty good topic. So that's it. If there's any questions that you have for me, I will gladly answer them. If there's anything else you'd like to see on the reports, let me know. But
No, it's very good. You broke it down community-wise, and it's, the detail of it is awesome. And overview. It's always fantastic. So thank you.
alrighty.
And I've been doing CPR training refreshers for like 30 years, so tell Joel he probably did one of the best classes I've been to in those 30 years. So.
Don't know if you've seen it on our social media, that class that you were in.
Yep.
That, it was either that night or the next night. A gentleman who was in class with you ended up doing CPR on his son.
Wow.
And was
Joel did a
successful.
really good job. So.
Yeah, he does. He does a really good job.
Yeah.
And Robin, we're bringing that 1885 wagon back to the station.
Thank you, Chief.
If you got any history on it, let me know.
I'm trying to find some stuff.
Any pieces of history on it.
We will now turn to Ms. Brandel for the fire and EMS reports from Cambridge.
The Cambridge Commission met on June 11th, and we also did receive notice that the Village of Cambridge has officially notified the Cambridge EMS and Fire Commission that they would like to review the current collective bargaining agreement and enter into negotiations for a new contract. There's numerous sections in the contract that they would like to be renegotiated to help, I guess, take a look at the bigger financial picture of the commission, as well as the safety and the protection of the staff. They did notify the Local 311 that they want to begin negotiations for the next contract before the July 1st deadline date.
Were they to notify each individual municipality of that, or does that just go to the commission members? 'Cause I have not seen anything.
I would have to double check in the IGA. I think that they have to notify, I can recall, I'm pretty sure they have to notify the they have to notify the commission that they want to enter into negotiations for the contract.
Did you receive something then, I would assume?
The email that I forwarded to you.
Okay.
Yes.
That was all. There was no certification that comes with it or anything
Nope,
like that? Okay.
nope, it just had to be in writing.
We've had that in the past, that's why I ask.
Yeah, it's just the email that they had sent indicating that they want to enter into negotiation. So, along with that, Kristen Blackwood, President Blackwood, and myself, we have now have scheduled monthly meetings with the accountant to work through all prior year payables, which continues to be an issue as payables are coming in from 2023 and 2024 still. So, trying to determine what has been paid, what has not been paid, working through that. So I've had some really great meetings with the CPA and feel like we are making some headway. However, I still think that there is a bit to go. At our last meeting, we have decided that the IGA, we are going to review several sections at every meeting that we have. We got through the first section of the IGA, which is very kind of standard language. There wasn't much comment during the comment period for what needs to be revised or changed for that. So that I think the review process of that IGA is probably going to take us, I would say, 18 to 24 months to get through each one of those sections, because it is up for renewal in 2026. In relation to the public sale of Ambulance 92, all municipalities have agreed now to sell Ambulance 92 as is, so that will be moving forward with that. And I think that is what I have for now. Our next meeting is, I believe, July 23rd. It got moved back. Yes, July 23rd is our next meeting.
And we're still going to be receiving the notification to have the postings done by Alicia, right?
Correct. Yes. Yep.
Is there a timeline once notification of like, hey, we want to negotiate, is there a timeline within that?
For that,
Yeah.
I would have to check in the IGA on that. I am not certain offhand if that is included in there. Because that could be pretty
Yeah.
relevant too.
Yeah, if there's like a
Yes.
certain time frame within that agreement saying, hey, once notification is done, we have X amount of time to
Right.
negotiate that before, because if it's in limbo for so long, what's the plan moving forward, right?
Right.
Just kind of curious about that with the,
Yeah. I will look at, I don't know right offhand. I'll have to look at that and get back.
okay,
I just know that they had to notify by the appropriate timeline in order to
Sure.
enter into negotiations, so. So I will keep you up to date and what happens with that.
okay, great. Any other questions?
None.
Joint Rock Lake Committee review of minutes. Did you guys get all a copy of those?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any questions or anything that stood out from those minutes?
No questions?
Okay. Town chair report, Rock Lake Road project. There was a bit of a hiccup on the mix. It wasn't as dense as they wanted it to be, per DOT specifications. On that binder layer, which is the first layer that they've laid down. And it's only that first section, which is about halfway down Rock Lake Road to Cemetery Road there. And so basically they had halted the section after the testing. They did some third-party testing. If you guys recall, it was super hot that day. So part of the reason why they were thinking they tested it with a third-party lab, even after we had another person come out and tested the density, the mix was accurate and fine. It just was an issue, they think, because of the heat. It was not dissipating to create the density with the asphalt because it was so hot out that day. I did talk to Corey. He said the testing was coming back better, but it's still not at the density level that is required by the DOT. Now, the good and the bad is there is a formula with the DOT for a calculation of a discount, right? So it still meets DOT specs, it doesn't meet the range of what they're at. So there could be a calculation that we look at as a potential discount for that section. The other thing they can do is on that surface section, they now make that section more dense, which is the surface layer coming back through when they cap it off, is they're gonna make that an additional density to make up for that difference. They kind of were letting it sit to see if that allowed with the different testing that it would, you know, dissipate the heat and become better. I don't know. We're not getting any reprieve from any hot days lately, so it is what it is. Corey is all over that with them. Payne and Dolan does a lot with the DOT. They do not want a mix issue coming up as a black eye. They have a lot of projects to do. The good thing is they fixed it on that next binder section going from that intersection all the way out to Highway B. So they had no issues with that. So just kind of a weird anomaly that we'll try to figure that out. I did talk to Corey to ensure that the aprons, even though they took out that island to make it a more standard intersection, that they widen that apron, otherwise we'll be filling in gravel every year. And that it's asphalt all the way up to the grass to ensure that we don't have to keep filling potholes, because as much as it's a new road and a nice new intersection, I think they're just gonna remember that the road used to be there and cut through the grass and they cut through the gravel. So that's a couple positives. I will keep you guys in the loop. Timeline of that project, they took this week off because of the schedulings that they got bumped up with the delays with the research of the binder level. They'll be back out there next week to hopefully finish the surface and then hopefully start working on the shoulders. Parks Committee met last week, had a nearly full board meeting in attendance, so that was great. They have a bunch of things on their agenda as well that they're starting to get after, which is great to see. Starting to take some direction. I have a feeling they'll be coming to the meeting to make some recommendations on some things. I think there was dog
Waste station
yeah,
discussed.
yeah. So
Yeah, that was fun carrying that home.
yeah. That could be in your correspondence section.
How much my car stinks now?
Yeah. Ferry Park launch area has a bunch of potholes, so I'm working with a contractor to get that leveled out with some gravel. That needs to get smoothed out. We also had a large rock fall off one of the riprap boats, so we're getting that moved and pushed out of the way the best we can, or actually just fully taken out of there.
Where's that? By Ferry?
Ferry Park, yeah.
Okay.
And then, just to kind of give you guys a heads up, what we're working on, the DOT STP local program for grants for road work has opened up, and we have until October to submit a proposal. I've reached out to the town of Oakland, although it's not always good that we just finished Rock Lake Road or have that as a grant, we win another one. But if we add Oakland in and we look at Hope Lake Road in those sections of where we need to do some work on Hope Lake Road, we have an opportunity to see if we can try to win some more grant funding for Hope Lake Road to try to fix some of that road.
And which grant were you going after for that one?
The STP local.
Not the ARIP?
No.
Okay.
This is the STP local program. I know I have it in here.
Who writes those grants?
That's going to be, that's what I got to work out with the town of Oakland. It's either going to be our current consultant
Okay.
or there's consultant.
Okay.
So that's what we got to work out and try to figure that out. It could be a cost sharing thing of who does that. So we'll try to work with them. I did talk to an additional consultant. The Cedar Corporation kind of brought up some of the PACER ratings on some of our roads, and that kind of fit in the realm of their experience of saying, hey, this is a good opportunity for you guys to do an additional grant if you get Oakland to go in on it with you. Otherwise, because we have Rock Lake, it will hurt us when they do the review. So other than that, end of my report. Any questions on those? All right. Period for public comment. Please keep the comments to 3 minutes. And 1, 2, 3, not. Who's going first?
I'm going first, I guess.
Make sure you say your name. And
Am I
your address.
talking into here, or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, I haven't been here since this was going. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Anita Martin. We live at 261 Pinnacle Drive in Lake Mills. The reason for my appearance tonight is to share some important public health information. Experts recommend everyone that has a private well to have their drinking water tested at least once per year. Our Jefferson County Health Department offers nitrate screening at no charge to any county resident. If your drinking water has nitrates, it's likely the water also contains other contaminants which may make it unsafe or dangerous to consume. Now is the time to take your drinking water in to be tested. Why? Why now? In a nutshell, and I'll try to keep it to 3 minutes, but please indulge me if I'm a few seconds over. The pond wastewater at Daybreak Foods Creekwood Farm on County Highway A and Crossman Road tested very high for fecal coliform bacteria. These tests took place last November, last December, and in January, according to documents recently posted on the DNR website. The egg-laying facility is currently applying for reissuance, or what we tend to think of as renewal of its 5-year DNR wastewater permit. Instead of hauling the pond wastewater to wastewater treatment plants like United Liquid Waste Recycling just outside of Watertown, or the city of Jefferson's municipal wastewater facility, or an unnamed facility in Illinois, as has reportedly been done the past few years, Daybreak Foods proposes to land apply wastewater from its on-site ponds going forward. The land application would take place in parts of town of Lake Mills and parts of town of Ascalon. Whether their wastewater has already been land applied on fields here in the town of Lake Mills in 2025 is unclear. If it has, was the wastewater tested for coliform and more specifically E. coli bacteria and nitrates before it was land applied? One of the methods the facility plans to use and may have already used the last several months of this year involves equipment which sprays the wastewater 20 to 30 feet into the air under pressure. An incident last year resulted in pond wastewater foam becoming airborne, windborne. Though I'm trying to get my tongue going. The wastewater debris landed in the right-of-way on County A in Lake Mills and across County A onto a resident's private property more than 500 feet away. The equipment involved was not the same as the equipment proposed for nutrient management going forward. However, it did propel Daybreak's wastewater 20 to 25 feet into the air, and this was documented with legal aerial photography. Then the same kind of situation with 20 to 25 feet, okay, I'm hurrying, is what's being proposed with traveling gun waste application going forward. Many factors go into how much of a risk what's being planned proposes. Tonight won't allow time. Suffice it to say, we have numerous questions. In summary, please call the health department and get sampling instructions and bring your water in for sampling. And the phone number for the health department to do your sampling is 1-920-674-7275. And you would want to speak with Health Officer Elizabeth McGrary if you have questions. The location of that building is actually on Annex Road in Jefferson. It's not the county courthouse. Thank you.
David Weir, N6632, Woodfield Lane. Not a comment, but a question. Has there been any further discussions or information that you may have received from the city of Lake Mills with respect to the monstrosity of the apartment complex multifamily on B? Where that stands, is it going forward, not going forward? Anything that you can share with us?
The last meeting I had was it was at a standstill at this point.
The notice that we mentioned earlier that we had received from the city was actually for the property behind Party Mart off of Highway V as in Victor. Yeah, so it was a separate, just so everybody's clear on that.
I thought that might have been about the
Yeah,
monstrosity. You know, I know that the owner of the property had called a halt to proceeding through the end of May of this year, and it's now July. Haven't seen any activity on the site, and just wondering if there's anything we can do or should know about that's happening on that.
As of now, no. It is on my status updates when I talk to the city on that, just to kind of, where's it at?
And obviously always keep an eye on the city's website for notices and stuff for the plan commission and whatnot, so.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Susan Trier, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Rock Lake Improvement Association, and there are 3 issues we'd like to bring to your attention. Number 1, the Miljala Shores Park has suffered significant shoreline damage to this season's ice push, which I know you're aware of. Its northern border along an unnamed tributary and Betsy Chalk's property has long-standing erosion problems. RLIA would be willing to devote resources to assist the town in developing a solution. In order to move forward on this project, we recommend Number one, the board should view the project from the water to gain the best perspective of the problem. RLIA is willing to coordinate this on-water survey for the board, and Robin could coordinate a walking quorum meeting for the board similar to the road survey, which the board already participates in. So, and, well, okay, it would be a quorum because you'd be moving, yeah. You'd be moving, and maybe we could even take a look at shorelines, just so that you have an understanding of what shorelines look like from the water. And then number two, we think the board should assign a board member to advise RLA during the process of doing the project to make sure that the recommendation reflects the board's priorities rather than just reiterative recommendations. Of course, RLI would also incorporate Land Water Conservation Department into our working group as well. The second issue was Land Water Conservation Department has offered to install a brick via polyline rope to some of the deeper slow no wake buoys to help monitor for quagga mussels. There's no cost to the township, and we urge the township to agree to this request. Quagga mussels have been found in Lake Geneva. Boats from Lake Geneva have come into Rock Lake, potentially bringing quagga mussel larvae with them. Land Water Conservation Department has already placed some shallow monitoring tools. Quagga mussels, however, enjoy deeper depths, making the slow no-wake buoys an ideal monitoring location. Land Water Conservation would remove the bricks before the end of season, so the bricks would not interfere with the removal of the buoys themselves. So it just doesn't seem like there's any downsides for the town to do that. And then lastly, this is like an informational thing, RLIA, in conjunction with Land Water Conservation Department, developed a supplemental sign that can be attached to the empty space on the existing aquatic invasive species cleaning stations at all the boat launches. This supplemental signage helps boaters use the tools more effectively. RLI will attach the signage and will monitor their condition over time and season. And next time you're at the launch, we encourage you to see if this additional signage is helpful in clearing your boat as well. And then I just noticed on new business that you were taking a peek at requiring a permit for companies putting in piers and launches. So if you decide to do that, I would just have a recommendation that if you had a cover letter that went out to the companies letting them know that there's this new permit required, that you also request that they follow slow no wake regulations on the lake, and also to clean their boats. I've seen and also had multiple people complain to me that they do not follow slow no wake. They tear through Korth Park, and one resident actually stopped one of the main boat guys and asked them why they didn't clean their boat, and they said that they were in a hurry. So those guys are not good because they move quickly from lake to lake to lake. So just a gentle reminder that we expect you to clean your boat if you enter Rock Lake, and that they should follow slow no wake, and here's your permit required. No, I'm teasing. Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you.
Good evening, Scott Kampmeyer, N6498 Sherwood Hills Road. Kampmeyer, N6498 Sherwood Hills Road. I'd like to thank the board for its service, and I'd also like to thank Robin. I brought to your attention a couple months ago that our electronic speed limit sign wasn't working, and you've got that working again. I appreciate that. Or you did, whoever did it, I appreciate it. Whoever did it, I appreciate it. But in the no good deed goes unpunished category, now we know how fast people are going on Sherwood Hills Road. So I would bring to the board's attention that perhaps there might be some way that we could enforce that 25 mile per hour speed limit, or at least remind people of that. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm relatively new to the community, but I do know that, you know, I live right down from the sign, so it's very easy for me to see that 35 seems to be the new 25. So.
Well, and I can add that we live on S, and we see people blowing the stop sign off of Sherwood Hills Road all the time.
Yep.
And it's the people that live there, because I also live home.
Yep. So I appreciate it. Just bringing that to your attention, if there's anything we can do, I'd appreciate it. And the other thing I'd like to advocate for tonight is for a town brush disposal site. I really appreciate, John's that has the pickup in the spring and the fall, but that just kind of leaves me in the summer accumulating, bags of brush and everything, all throughout the summer without a disposal site. And I don't know if that's fiscally possible, or if there's something we could work out with the city that already has its disposal site. I don't know if that costs too much, but I just wanted to advocate for that tonight. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening.
You're reading your mind, Scott. It's on the agenda.
Okay.
Hey, Colton Hutchinson, Jefferson County Water Resource Specialist. I was just wanting to advocate that what Susan said about like a boat little tour would definitely be beneficial. I think that would be kind of good, and like she said, LWCD could help with some resources as well. If you guys look to do any types of projects in the future, we have cost sharing. We can bring in DAC engineers to help with some design plans if you do any like shoreline work in the future. So there are resources out there for cost sharing. I just pushed that. And then also the brick samplers, we would look at one on kind of the north end. I actually just went out there and looked at it. It'd be the north end boat launch, the east side pier furthest out. It looked like there was a good spot to kind of like tie it off like on one of the rollers off to the east side, so you're not like having as much boat traffic movement as happening. And then also for the buoy locations, it would probably be the furthest buoy out kind of from the channel going into the mill pond, because that kind of captures a lot of the flowing water towards that way.
Is that like in the shallow area?
Yeah, kind of in the shallow area, so like one of those shallow noted ones, whichever one would be furthest out.
You're talking about the brick hole?
Yep, talking about the brick, yeah. And then, like Susan said, you can just coordinate with me. If you guys are planning on taking out the buoys, just let me know and I can run out there with my boat and detach them, or however it would be most beneficial for you guys. So there would be one up on the north boat launch, one on the buoy kind of going into the channel, and then we were also looking at one, I think it might be the city actually, but there's like a deeper buoy kind of at the end of their swim-in area. It's down into about 16, 17 feet. So
It's probably on that corner.
yeah, it's on like,
Gap is between Woodland and.
yeah.
Okay.
And would that be the city?
That's gonna be the city. With this.
Okay.
It's
Yep, off the Sandy Beach. So yeah, I'll contact them and ask them about that one. So I think that's it for right now. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? All right. Thank you all for your insight and input. It will be noted and some may be addressed or at least talked about tonight.
I have a question regarding it. Isn't our engineer already working with something on Majala Shores? I thought I read something that a consultant was working on something regarding erosion at Majala Shores already.
Actually, that was something that we did talk to Colton. I'm going to call you out back there. I thought we already talked about that with them providing some additional engineering of how to manage that shoreline erosion.
When you say them, who do you mean?
The Land and Water Conservation Department and Patricia.
Okay.
Zachary.
Yeah, so I had spoken with the DACAP engineer who we would then contact, and they would be interested to have at least 2 or 3 of you probably out there.
Sure.
Just to get the actual town's perspective instead of like just what the county's thinking. So if there's a way to like coordinate like a meeting time just to go out there and talk.
Absolutely. Should
And
be.
DATCAP is the acronym for what?
Department Ag Trade Consumer Protection.
Which is state?
state.
And we'd be looking to them for funding, is that why we'd be meeting them?
Yeah, so it's a little weird. So for county cost sharing for any like shoreline restoration, like riprap or restabilization of a bank, we have county cost share, but to use that cost share for anybody, the project has to be engineered by a DACAP engineer who would then come out and look at it, and then he would develop the design. He would give the design to you guys. You would then find any riprap or shoreline contractors, get at least 3 bids. You'd have to send that to the county, and it's usually typically whatever the cheapest one is for the most part is what we would then be able to cost share, and it's up to 50%.
What's the cost sharing portion? What's the cost sharing portion?
I think he just said 50%.
50%,
I didn't hear him. Thank
and
you.
it's usually capped at I think 30,000.
Okay.
Depending on other projects we could have going on in the county, because we also use it for like closing wells and stuff like that.
And the cost sharing is for the construction, not necessarily for the engineering?
Not for the engineering, but the engineering design from DACAP would be free.
Okay.
As long as
That's
it
what I
meets
wanted,
their
that
standards,
clarification.
And then what's the timeline on that? For example, if we met them next month, could something be done this year, or does it have to get done next year?
It would probably get done next year, because it would take them a while to create the design. I would expect a month or 2 to create the design, and then you're pretty much rolling into next year when you could use the cost sharing money. So if you got the design from DACAP, you could use it over the winter to kind of get some bids, and then be ready for next year if you would want to go forward with anything.
And we used DACAP when we took a look at the Miljala channel too, the unnamed tributary, the tributary associated with the Miljala. And there's a chance if we work together that we might be able to layer grants on top of each other. You know, we could maybe be looking at a water and surface grant from the DNR, or you might take a look at changing the launch. At one time, there's a conversation that that launch should be made into a better kayak launch. You know, so well, if you're now taking a look at the launch, which is in really nasty shape, if you've ever tried to launch a kayak there, you might be able to use boat launch fees in addition. So it's like, I think we should take a big picture of that and then try, and also understand what the history was, because that shoreline has already been once reconstructed back by Patricia Cicero. So I just think there's a lot of opportunities there, and eventually you're going to have to take a look at that side property, your side property as well. Along that stream, the trees are completely taking their roots out. So it could be a fun project.
Yeah, that could probably be lumped together too, like the shoreline and then kind of the undercutting.
And maybe different strategies for each half, just depends on what you need done.
Okay, thank you. We'll be in touch, Colton, on a boat ride. Pretty good, John?
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
Tracy, you have any additional questions on that?
No, thank you.
Moving on to item number 10, applications. This is a discussion about the request made by Lake Mills One Stop, the restaurant side of the truck stop, renewal of its Class B liquor license.
So John's question earlier, this is in regards to a separate operation from what the actual truck stop is, because that's a Class A license where they can sell and they consume off-premise, where this is a Class B for a restaurant where they consume on-premise. So there's 2 separate licenses required for that. And they do have a separate entity, legal entity that's applying for this. This is a renewal, they've had it in the past. It's not open. They can do this where they can have a license and such unless we cap it for a certain time period, but I'm not even sure if we're legally able to. But they're paying for the license, they hold it, they are hoping to get it open.
Have they given you any indication on a timeline?
I see that as a sign up saying they're looking to rent out the restaurant site to someone, so. But they applied for one last year, they held it for the entire year, and I think there was some mix up as far as the management over there getting the application in on time, which is why it's not with the last group and we just approved, and that's why it's on this month. is not dire for them to operate because they aren't operating. They just want to hold the license right now.
How many available Class Bs do we have?
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I don't know that off the top of my head, but
Okay.
I believe there's at least, I think, one other one that's open just because like Pyramid Liquors, well, no, it was Pyramid, Moe's Place was gone. The hotel used to hold one, so I'm almost certain it's just one other Class B. And we don't receive more until we hit a certain point of population. I'd have to look at the ordinance to know that, so.
When you say one other, do you mean this would use them up, or?
No, there would be one other after
There'd still be an
this.
additional one
Yeah, there would be
available.
one other after
Thank
this
you.
for sure, yeah. We used to have several places, and it's been slowly dwindling over the
Yeah.
years. And it's the Class B, they're capped at a certain number per population. The Class A is you can have as many as you want.
And can we give them a certain time period?
Yeah, I was curious
I
if the
think we would
condition-
have to put it in an ordinance. I think there have been some municipalities that wanted to, it can't just keep,
Right.
applying for this and just holding it, not allowing others to use it. I think other municipalities have put something in their ordinance saying you can only hold it for so many years before you have to give it up if you're not using it. But we haven't explored that yet, so I don't know the law details on that. It would have to be in our ordinance prior to someone applying. So what we're looking to do is we gotta approve their combo Class B liquor and malt, and then we also need to approve the non-intoxicating beverage license for them, the two that I have highlighted on the sheet.
Okay. Is there a second one there? Not bad. Oh, that's from the last meeting, my fault. Thoughts on that? I mean,
Well, I assume it'll assist them in getting an operator if they want one, so.
Right.
And if they don't have access to one, it may be a roadblock to opening the restaurant for some of the operators.
I would agree with that, John. I mean, the hard part is giving it to them and then, again, nothing happening.
Nobody's
Right.
banging on the door for it. Look
Yeah.
at it that way.
That's
We
true.
don't have anybody waiting for
True.
a Class B, so.
True. I guess, is there a motion to approve Lake Mills One Stop, K&M Plaza LLC, Lake Mills One Stop, and then 6947 Highway 89 for their combo Class B liquor and malt renewal?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve the renewal for the Class B combo for liquor and malt for K&M Plaza LLC at the Lake Mills One Stop and 6947 Highway 89. Any further discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries for the approval of the renewal of the combo liquor and malt license, combo B license for K&M Plaza, Lake Mills One Stop at N6947 Highway 89 in Lake Mills. Is there a motion for the approval of the renewal for the non-intoxicating beverage for K&M Plaza LLC at the Lake Mills One Stop?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries for the approval of the renewal of the non-intoxicating beverage for K&M Plaza, Lake Mills One Stop located at N6947 Highway 89 in Lake Mills. Thank you, Trace. Moving on to old business, decision of adopting amendment of the code references to town ordinance 5-2 boating regulations. Based on a public opinion, is there a motion to approve that and adopt that amendment?
So moved.
Second.
It is moved for the adoption of the amendment of the code reference of town ordinance 5-2. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries for the adoption of the amendment to Town Ordinance 5-2 for voting regulations. New business, discussion and or decision of redesign proposed new hall.
Go for it.
We had a meeting with the prior engineering firm. HSR, an architect, I guess, who had provided that at the prior town hall proposal. They had given us a couple renditions and cost options. I guess what we're looking here for is, do we keep moving forward with this process to try to get this on the docket and moving forward, and continue to move forward with cost analysis, land assessment, those types of things, to then also dial in on what type of cost it would be for a building. So I'm looking to you guys for any insider input on that. Robin, did I miss anything on that?
You basically just want to reintroduce that
Yeah.
you want to start looking into it. This is the redesign of what they had done. Kyle's got one. And what Brad, he took over from Lee. Lee has moved on to another project. He's out in New York City now, and Brad is sort of his superior. So he wanted to take another stab at this and kind of hone in on what our real basic needs are. Do some reworking, simplify the roof line and things to see if they could get the costs down. Of course, with inflation, you bring the costs down, but then inflation pushes it back up. And Kyle wanted to look at it again, with fresh eyes as new board members, to see if it's something you want to continue to move forward with or not. So
we have a unique component because of our police department. There were things that Brad talked about that potentially we are looking at, potential grants. With having our own police department, perhaps we can get some additional funding to help make sure that it's a secure entity. As a police department within a town hall, they have to have locks, they have to have secure locations for munitions, also data and private information. So that is something that Brad had offered a couple other towns who did receive some of those grants to help with that as well. One of the other things I was looking at with this is, as we look at maybe bringing this up, is not just one option and try to shave it here or there, but also look at good, better, best, and looking at 3 different types of building structures so that the general public could look at something like that versus trying to, hey, this is our option. How can we try to make this cost estimate shrink as much as possible without losing the requirements that the police have? There are additional grants based on our location through my research with the USDA, with our close proximity to the Drumlin Trail. There are opportunities that we could potentially, because it's upgrading the community and creating a better community center, we can also add some additional, like a bike rest stop, going from basically London to Lake Mills. There's no pit stops unless you're out in the middle of the field along the bike trail, and perhaps we can do a watering spot or something of that sort. Those are things that would also be eligible for getting grant dollars to help manage some of the cost overall. And obviously yard waste is something that we've looked at in consideration of this facility as well. But what I'm asking you guys as a board and new board members, do we want to move forward with starting this process? Because it will be long, but shouldn't be as long as the prior.
What needs aren't being met now? The police department and what else?
Space in here when there's
AC.
hot topics.
Pardon me?
AC.
Parking is really the biggest need that is not being met here. Actually, where my truck is parked out there is not technically the town's. Basically, the space around the building is the town hall parking. With voting, there's security things that are needing to be addressed with managing voting and ballots and all that kind of stuff. And you know, the parking is the biggest issue that we see when we try to gather as a community. We bombard, you know, Main Street and, you know, our neighbors with all the parking on this. AC would be nice.
And there are some election requirements that may be coming down the line that would benefit having better security. It's not a for sure thing yet, so I'm not going to elaborate on it until I know for sure what's going on, because it seems like it changes daily. But
I also think too, you know, I know that there's based upon the commission for the fire and EMS, you know, the ability, as it's mentioned here in this layout, you know, I think that discussion is going to continue moving down the road as well, depending on where the Cambridge Fire and EMS Commission, how that looks, what that could potentially look like with the addition of this town hall. I think that is another area that could be a benefit when we're looking at putting in an ambulance in another location. You know, with Lake Mills serving part of Oakland and so forth. So,
well, I think,
my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
What was the cost that got voted down?
It's like 2.3 million.
23
no,
million?
2.3.
2.3
Got the
Well, this is
decimal.
2.1.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, yeah.
So,
And that's what I was saying.
It's basic-
They got the
you know,
cost down, but then
Yeah,
inflation bumped it right back
yeah,
up.
so I don't know that,
HSR wanted to take another stab at it,
Yeah.
knowing that the
I
first
mean,
one
a
was voted
rectangular
down.
building's efficient, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't support spending a lot of time and money on it without going to the voters first and saying, do you want to spend X dollars on a town hall? You know, that's the question that needs to be answered.
Sure.
Because even if it's 1 million, the voters could still say, no, they don't want to spend that money. Now you spend a bunch of time on it, and HSR spent a bunch of time on it.
Yeah.
You know, we just saw this with the Sandy Beach restaurant. They should have gone to there was one question that needed to be answered. Do you want to spend however much money a year to support a restaurant at Sandy Beach? The answer was no. They asked a bunch of other questions. Do you want it to be year-round? Do you want it to serve steak? You know, do you want this? Do you want that? They didn't ask the question of, do you want to support this to the tune of $200,000 a year or whatever it was?
Sure.
You know, and that answer came back as no. So that's just my comment on sort of putting a bunch of work into it again. I'm not saying it's not needed. I'm just saying somehow you should get that question answered.
Sure.
That's my thought anyway.
We definitely want to consider all things, and then certainly the public input was something that's going to be important. They voted no, so
Yeah,
they definitely
and this
have
is
a
basically
perception
the
of
same price.
what they want to see. This was their rendition of what it is. I mean, we could talk to a couple of different architectural firms as well.
Well, I mean, this is a rectangle with a straight gable roof.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can make it a metal building and it'll cost less than if it's a brick building, but
Right.
it's a rectangle with a straight gable roof. It's pretty efficient.
I think that visualization of the good, better, best would maybe help with that discussion of like, hey, here's what it could look like, here's what it could look like at this dollar amount, those types of things, and then potentially then we can get into the fine-tooth comb of what that would be. That was kind of my thought on it, to do that introduction and then at least get some public feedback on that. You know, that was kind of my idea. When you just talk a dollar amount, you know, I think, what does that involve, right? What does that benefit to them as an elector? You know, what does that mean, long term? I don't think there's a lot of time and money spent on it. We don't have a contract to continue to do drawings or renditions. And certainly we could get another varying opinion from a different architect. To your point, it's square, but maybe they have a different construction methodology.
Not really.
Not really. But
I think the biggest thing is they want to take another stab at it, try to make it as efficient as possible and see if that's something that the new board would want to reintroduce to the public and start the conversation again or not. That's kind of where we're at.
And what kind of costs are associated with them taking a look at this again?
He was willing to do this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they felt bad that it got turned down, but it's what it is, so that's what the voters decided.
And from our standpoint, design starts with a program, a written program, and if there's gonna be less here, then we reduce the program and give it to the architect. We say, well, it doesn't seat 60 or whatever it is, it only seats 30. It doesn't have 2 parking stalls, it only has 1 parking stall. I'm making all this stuff up.
Yeah, no,
But,
understood.
that just reduces square footage, and then it costs less. We can't get anybody to donate land, and I'm sure.
But I think that's kind of like, what do you put first?
Right.
How do you apply for grants to see if we can even get anything and then see if the people would support it if we know that the cost would be lower? Or do you get the support of the people and then apply for grants hoping you get something? It's kind of like, what approach do you take, or which is the better route if this were to be considered again?
I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
My limited history with grants is you need to really know what you're doing.
Yep.
Like say this is exactly what we're planning on doing, can we get a grant? Versus can we get a grant, we're thinking about this, we're not thinking about something.
Which is why I'm asking.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means we have to have the support of the electors before we move
Right.
forward to apply for grants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got another thought?
No,
Okay.
just ruminating.
Now,
Understood.
this was a drawing that,
What was what's the impact, to the individual homeowner on, it's generally on for $100,000 in value or whatever, or landowner, or did we say what the impact was in the referendum?
we did in the referendum breakout. I don't have any of that handy right
Yeah.
now, but I think it's all still on the website. This was just introduced to you guys tonight.
Yeah.
Because we just got this. and
Sure.
This is just the start of a conversation, if you even want to go that way.
How old is this building, by the way?
It was built in 1970, it says in the back of that picture, 1972, 73 or something in that era.
50 years old?
Yeah.
It's about how long buildings last.
When I started getting estimates for replacing windows and there was some roof issues, we're starting to creep up easily to over $100,000 to start fixing things. So that's where the conversation is like, where do we go? What do we do?
Right.
We can put lipstick on it as much as we want.
Yeah, still, it's a metal building that's 50 years old.
At some point, we gotta address it.
Yeah. I'm willing to move forward with it. I was just giving my comments as to how it's not gonna, I'm hoping it's not a waste of time and money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it's to try and get a consensus. If you don't have any consensus whatsoever by the populace that this is needed, and the populace really thinks this facility is fine, and the only time it's not fine is when we're voting.
Right.
And we only vote, every 2 years or whatever, if that's what they think, then,
Yeah.
then they're not gonna approve it regardless.
Those are all fair questions.
Those
I
are-
think that
that's
should
just
be a
my
part of that
thoughts.
process and a part of what we're trying to do to investigate, should we continue to move
And
forward with this
if
discussion.
you go forward with a referendum vote, it's a non-binding. Because we had to do understand the legalities of how to approach this project and what approvals we need from the electors when we did this the first time. The electors, by state law, at an electors meeting, can approve the town to purchase land which is really the key component with this, and to sell land, and then to purchase bonds for funding things. It's not necessarily to say we want you to build a hall. It's these other components that are part of this project to allow the project to actually occur. They decided they wanted to see it as a referendum question, so that's why we got put on as a non-binding referendum. It's not required that it goes to a referendum, but that's the decision the electors preferred, so.
Okay.
You know, you talked about some of the other things with the police department. We have to store our boat.
I can jump in if you want me to jump in. I can just tell you that where this department is at, it's an office, and it's not anywhere near what the state would want or requires for a lot of things. When it comes to security, just having a computer system that allows access to state systems, that should be secure. That computer, that network should be completely secure and not accessed by any other employee of the township other than employees of the police department who have been backgrounded. When it comes to evidence, we have no secure evidence location, and by today's standards of evidence, securing, not just having a file cabinet with a lock on is secure. There should be a room that is dedicated to storage of evidence. And if you're talking drugs, well then that needs to be double secure. If you're talking money, that needs to be double secure. If you're talking regular evidence, that can just be on a shelf. So if you have money, it has to be in a safe in a secure location. If you have drugs, it has to be in some type of safe in a secure location. So a double security. When it comes to things like ammunition and other things that we have to have as a police department, we lack the secure facilities to do some of those things. We just don't have storage. We're sharing 2 rooms, a storage room and an office, with the rest of the town and all the files that go along with that town. Not saying that it hasn't worked, but things have changed in 50 years and the rules have changed. So when we are audited, which we are audited every year by the state, you know, that's why we had to put up a sign on there that it should only be police department people going into that office now, just because of what we keep in there and personnel files and all of those things and evidence and all sorts of stuff. So there's, when it comes to our, as a police department, you know, things have worked because people just make them work. So our boat is stored in one location during the winter. The boat itself, we all know, is at Rock Lake right now, but that trailer is off-site because we have no location to put that trailer. So, night out, for example, we have to go get the truck, which is at another location, not where the trailer is at. So we have to go get the truck, to go get the trailer, to go to Rock Lake, to get the boat, to go do anything. All doable, but it takes probably, you're just talking at least a half hour's worth of time, if not more. And then I had to contact the owner of the garage where the trailer was at because he had stuff in front of our trailer. So I couldn't get our trailer out to get hooked up to go get the boat. So, okay, we have the boat here, but we have other water. We could also be called to any other lake by anyone to assist. I mean, you've seen the accidents that have happened at, you know, Koshkonong and Delavan and other places. At some point, you know, we have a boat and they could say, hey, Town of Lake Mills, we really need your boat out here. We need another boat to help. That would take a lot of time for us to work through all of that to get to our boat, to get it out of the water, to get to where we would need to go. So would it be nice to have our boat, our trailer, our truck, all of those things in one location? It'd be great. It would be ultimately, because we're paying storage for a truck location, we're paying storage for a trailer boat location. So I you know, again, it's things that we've made work. I think prior to me as chief and prior to Bob Delaney, I mean, all the chiefs have had to deal with this. They've had it stored in different locations. They've worked with different people. A lot of it has been handshake agreements of like, hey, can we store the trailer here? Can we store the boat here? And that's what's happened. And then, you know, there's no contract and, you know, we're paying the price on some of that when they're like, hey, you owe us money, you've been storing this here. So, big steps need to be taken forward when it comes to security. I can tell you that we made an arrest on the lake. We have no facility here for processing anybody that we arrest. So, not that we can't make that work, but then we have to work with the city and we have to call them and say, hey, we're coming to your department with one of our people, a prisoner, that we need to process there. So, the city of Lake Mills could say, hit the road. They could. Would they do that? No, because we work together, but they could. I mean, but for a secure location, they were welcome. They have welcomed us in to use their facilities as we needed to. So, it's a lot of steps in operating a police department, and I think it's just, you know, it's worked because it's worked, and nobody's questioned it, and not that I'm questioning it. I'm just telling you,
sure,
where it's at.
I understand.
So,
I'd appreciate it.
It's a perspective you don't think about every day when you're looking at, you know, the community side of it, right? Like, we could host things, we could do things, but really it's the functionality and the security of that stuff that, you know, my eyes were open when we had a brief conversation about it. Especially with dealing with, you know, somebody else's stuff parked in front of our stuff.
Right, yeah.
Tracking that down, but I guess what I'd like to ask you know, the board is a motion to move forward to investigate building options.
Sure.
To be able to propose for public opinion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been a motion to approve town hall renditions for feedback for public opinion. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries to move forward with ideas to get public opinion for a new town hall.
How is that gonna look? Like, how, what is that process gonna be?
Well, we could look at renditions, provide costs with those renditions, with the site plan, as well as police needs, you know, what's required, and then provide those as options for the electorates to provide feedback, to then make a decision if we want to take the next step and actually get into the nitty-gritty of those.
So how, I'm just trying logistically, how
Yeah.
are we gonna get their opinion on this? Are we gonna do some sort of survey? Are we going to, do we look at a broader sense of, like you were talking about a good, better, best
Yeah.
type scenario? Do we put a price tag on what each of those look like with just some generalities, and then say, what are you willing to pay for something, and start with that? So we're not trying to focus on something that might be too costly if they simply will not go beyond.
Yeah, we could do that as a survey.
We're allowed to have informational meetings on it? I mean, if we get to that point, we send out a postcard,
We could do
or
that.
we do a mailer with the, you know, the
It
better,
would be
best.
like a public hearing. We do-
Correct.
yeah.
You know, we lay out those options and,
We did a few of those when we went through the other process.
Right.
We had a subcommittee for a while that put this all together and did that. That was very time consuming.
I think we just need to understand what that price tag should be.
And then start from there.
Right.
Before we
Yeah.
get into the subcommittees and understanding that. Let's get a survey of the community, understand what that needs to be.
Okay.
Does that help with the logistics? Is that clear?
Yeah, I was just trying to say, okay, we can say we're moving forward, but how? How are we gonna do this?
No, fair enough.
okay.
Can we talk?
Yeah,
Yeah, we will. You might need to give my, how about 30 seconds?
Perfect.
Yeah. No, Robin, you've got my name and everything. No, I think when you do that survey, I think, number one, you need to clearly state why we need one. I didn't understand. nobody knows some of those issues. The other thing, what do you get for A, B, or C? And, you know, what do you get for it? And it's gotta be something in for it for the taxpayer. And I think there is. But I think, say, for A, you get this, for B, you get this, and for C, you get this.
If I may too? David Weir and 6632 Woodfield Lane. As someone who was quite active in that process with the town hall last time, stirring up the community, getting over 100 people here for a board meeting, turning it down, and then getting the 2-to-1 turn down on the $2.3 million building, I'd like to just toss a couple ideas at you. Actually, one idea. There was, what do you get for this? How do you get people to want it more? And we've got that monstrosity of an apartment building. If you could buy that land and turn that into the town hall, you would solve two problems. And you would get some more yes votes because you have an awful lot of people that are interested in turning that property into what it is now, or leaving it alone and not getting a 135-unit apartment building there. If you put a town hall there, and yes, it is City of Lake Mills property, but nothing requires that our town hall be located within the town, and maybe you could get it back at some point. It's surrounded by the town,
Sure.
and it would accommodate.
It can't be re-annexed back to the town, just legalize it.
Okay, but we could have it there. There's nothing that says we couldn't have a town hall there. And I think you would probably get a HELL more votes from all those 700 people that signed petitions to try to keep that apartment building from being built. And the owner bought that for only $200,000 about 8 years ago. And he's having problems selling it, and it might be a cheap solution. Because part of that $2.3 million that you were spending in the last town hall proposal was spending, I think it was like $600,000, if memory serves me correct, for the land? Was it 150? Yeah. Okay. But at least there'd be a carrot you could offer to these people who are adamant against an apartment complex going there, and be a far more appropriate use of the land. It's not intensive.
Well, I appreciate the insight. We do have other
Discuss it more,
items.
yeah.
We definitely will get into that. Next agenda item is discussion and/or decision of a social media policy. This is something that has come up several occasions, just with talking with some of the electors of, hey, how do I get in touch with what's going on in the town on Facebook? You know, we don't have one.
They can go to the town website.
They can go to the town website, that's usually my response, and they can sign up for email notifications. That's typically, the direction and the conversation that we go. There is a lot of legal requirements when a town or municipality has a Facebook page.
And that's what I just handed out. I realized I had sent it to Kyle a while back.
Yeah.
I did not send it to you guys, so I printed it quick. It lays out some of the legal things you need to think about before you go this direction, so you have it. Don't have to review it now, it's just the start of the conversation.
Correct. I guess I'm asking to the board, your guys' support to establish a policy for some of those things, because it's easier to communicate with the community on some of those.
Meaning it moves it as an ordinance, there's a policy?
I guess it would have to be.
I mean, somebody
Has
has
to
to
be
do the
department.
work.
What's that?
Somebody has to do the work,
Yeah.
and.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I don't really.
And somebody has to do the enforcement, and somebody
Yeah,
has
I
to
don't
make
really
the
support it.
decisions.
I mean, I signed up to get the emails from the town, and I get them on a regular basis as to what's going on.
Okay.
And I think that keeps me pretty well informed. I mean, if you're on Facebook, people want to chat, they want to go back and forth, they want to respond to something you said.
It is a dangerous place to communicate.
And that's what,
build
and that's
what a
what some of the
bunch of other
pitfalls
people are
talks,
saying.
they talk about some of the pitfalls of that.
Yeah, versus, you know, this is what we're doing and this is when it's gonna happen.
I think one of the premises of the policy, why I brought it up to the board, is informational only, which is one of the discussions, is an option where you, just like the email, you're posting information. There's no allowable comment or discussion that happens on that announcement.
Right.
There's no interaction whatsoever. There's still posting, there's still enforcement, you know. Even if they take that and then forward it over to the 6 different community pages that Lake Mills has, based on your opinion, you know, there's going to be discussion about it regardless. But at the end of the day, they end up there at some point, you know. At least the thought process was the next generations don't read emails. Or if they do, it's limited. They look on the phone. Colton, I'm gonna call on you in the back there. You read business emails, but you're looking at Facebook.
But none of the people you want are on Facebook anymore.
Right.
I mean, they're on Instagram and they're on TikTok.
I'm
They
not
don't
doing
wanna read
I'm
anything.
not doing
They want all
Snapchat.
pictures.
Sure.
You're right, but I'm just saying that's a really slippery slope.
One thing I'll mention that I think is really important to keep it up in perspective is all of our
Thank you for the
original notices and official commentary of what we want out there in public has to be housed under our website.
Yeah.
So whatever goes out, if we decide to do the social media, it would be an extension of that, but the home base for all this information is gonna be the website anyway. So is it best just to have the subscriber system? It's gonna cost us more if we link our website to automatic postings to a social media site. I don't know the number yet. I've asked our website to tell us what that is.
With their customer support, they couldn't give us that.
Right. So there will be added costs for that service so that it's a little bit more automated, so I'm not manually having to do this, because it takes up a lot of time, plus then monitoring it. So,
Yeah, I don't support it. I don't think we have the bandwidth for it.
Okay.
I mean, that's my comment.
Perfect.
We don't
Yes,
have-
my opinion would be, is there any way the town can invest in a better website where we can be more informative there versus having social media like Facebook? Sorry, I have Facebook too, but if you're not going to, and I would agree, if you're not going to allow comment, then you're just handing out information which you can just do on your website.
Fair enough.
Because you're not giving feedback, and I would encourage you not to give feedback, because that's a slippery slope to start getting involved in every argument that everybody wants to have on Facebook about everything that you're doing wrong, or, so, I mean, I would
comes
just,
into
People
play
do
of
comment,
freedom
they
of
send
speech issues.
Robin emails.
sure,
I mean,
exactly.
those are comments. They send, there's parking problem, Robin, there's a signage problem, Robin,
a phone
there's
call.
a garbage problem, Robin.
Send
I-
to Kyle,
you know,
I
send
would-
to Kyle.
I would love if we had a website that was more interactive, and that, like, you have sent me information on the ATVs and the boat stuff because it was boat enforcement weekend and everything else. It'd be great if I could put what I want to on the police department section, or on a face page, a landing page for the township with news and events, you know, things like
I
that.
can add you as an admin, because I know Kyle's wanted to do that, but I've been waiting for him to get his feet wet with his role first.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's things you could do. Facebook is basically a glorified website then for you, if that's all it's gonna be, is just posting information. We can do that on a website.
Just so you know, the website that we use, or the entity that we use is Town Web Designer. They have been pretty commonly used by most municipalities in the state because of how they develop it and such. So it's not unusual for smaller municipalities to use the website layout that we're using. It can get complicated because we're a little more complicated than some of the other towns are, because we have the police department, we have the lake. You know, others they're really listing ordinances, meetings.
Yeah.
You know,
That's it.
that's it. You
Yeah.
know, it's a little different for us.
I've looked at a couple others. I went to their website and looked at a couple others that
To compare.
they used reference, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be curious, you know, what is the cost of linking, you know, our town website to Facebook? I just would like to know what the cost associated is with that. And then if we did a refresh of our page, or we made some QR codes that linked information right to the page so that people could sign up
Right.
directly to, directly to the info bulletins or whatever you want to call them. I guess that's my comment on that is, I think there's a time and a place for social media, and I think, the town of Lake Mills has a lot of great things going. I don't know if all the electors know about it. So, but I just curious on the cost of that. Is this something that we have to decide on tonight?
No,
Or can we-
absolutely
just
not.
start the
This was a
conversation.
discussion.
Okay.
This one was a discussion to get your guys' feeling about it, because it was something I was curious about of where we go with it. I like the website updates as an option, and we'll talk with the web design company a little bit to see if there's some enhancements that we could do that would make it easier for people to find it. Even some of the sorting is like, when I'm
Right.
looking through stuff, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
we don't-
Trust me, I
it's-
try to clean some of it up.
Yeah.
But I have to do this, but I'm not a web designer.
Okay.
So.
Right.
Perhaps we could look at that as another agenda item
Okay.
in the
Update the
future,
website?
is a website refresh. And, looking at some of those notifications. They could even do those via text now with some of those
It's been an
notifications.
option
Yeah,
since 2009 when I started the
Yeah.
website to do text.
yeah.
It's always been an option.
So it was just a discussion to get the temperature and see what we thought.
And just so the past boards have always opted not to have it.
Yeah.
So.
Discussion or decision of yard waste services for town properties. This is probably more of a discussion. I think in the near future, I think we'll be able to get something worked out with the city. They were trying to figure out how to secure it. If you wanted to go there now, you could probably drop it off. Nobody would know. They don't have a camera. They don't have
Yeah,
a
the
gate.
city's all, please God, don't say that.
Yeah, I put it on record, I guess. They don't, we need to figure out a way to make that secure so that, the town residents can work that out, to be able to utilize that. They are open to that discussion, with the discussions that I've had. Does it, fulfill our immediate need with residents who have brush and things to deal with? No, but we're trying to get that moving as quickly as possible. There's a couple other things they got to get worked out of how to secure it. Their biggest frustration was obviously people dropping, washer and
Garbage.
dryers off and other garbage into that facility, which is crazy. I don't know of another site that we could maybe work with to potentially take that.
I believe some towns, and I think this has been brought up before, some towns are actually going to like a private entity that provides the service and allows access for residents to go in and pay as you go.
Yeah.
Facility, I think Holman's had talked about possibly doing that, but I don't know where that discussion ever went to. I talked to Dave Schrader, and I feel like he might have been the one that had that discussion with them.
With Holman?
With Holman, I think so, yeah. If my memory serves me right, they had thought about maybe offering a site that could be utilized. Granted, it would be pay as you go.
I recommend we work with the city.
Yeah, yeah. Our first direction is trying to get with the city an agreement in place so that they can account for us as town residents to be able to stop in there and
Yeah, it costs something to have the
Yeah.
facility.
Yeah.
We have a population of X, they have a population of Y.
correct.
Should be able to split it up like that.
It's just how they're trying to secure it there.
Or
They
it's
have-
based on need. Like some people may need a yard waste facility to take their yard waste where others in the town maybe don't. So
Correct.
it would be based on whether or not you need it, is whether you pay for that access.
Right, but the
Yeah.
same's true with city.
Yeah.
Some need it, some don't.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up in a discussion to make sure that we're all on the same page. City is still the direction we're going. If we're feeling that we're getting stalled out, we may have to look at another private party to be able to look at either taking it, or they can come with a big truck or something and try to figure that out and do another lap around the
Other municipalities I've worked where they've used yard waste event where people brought yard waste
Yeah.
put into dumpsters. But again, then they're hauling it.
Right.
Yeah.
If people are
Probably
short.
the landfill.
Yeah.
But yes, the city is the direction we're going. Discussion or decision on annual salt contract for 2025-2026 winter session
Okay, so this
season.
really is more, just so you guys are familiar with this. This isn't necessarily anything you have to make decisions on. So prior to you guys coming on board, the previous board had to decide what they wanted for the salt contract to be. This is my copy, so don't lose that. That's what they ordered for salt. And what happens then, once they've determined how much salt we're gonna sort of put an order in for, or sort of have them earmark for us, then we have to work with our service provider, Forest Landscaping, and decide on deliveries and things like that. He actually is a little bit more involved in this side of it, what you have in your packet, but because you guys are so all new to this, I want to make sure you guys are familiar with this. Usually it's something that Kyle and I and then the service provider work on. It's always worked out pretty well. We've had enough
Just a
salt.
question, there was like 44,000 or 44 tons, and then 60 tons, and then another 40 tons, something, I'm making that up to a certain extent.
Yep.
Are we purchasing the 40 plus the 60, and then the 40 they keep as a buffer that we don't have to purchase if we don't need it, or what's the
Well,
status
the optional
of that?
purchase was 22 ton. So the quantity that we asked for, the storage facility can handle 100 ton approximately. They look at what the current inventory is before they put this order in.
What storage facility?
Forest Landscaping's storage facility that they use specifically for town salt.
Okay, so he takes it on his
Correct,
property?
yes,
Okay.
because he actually goes through the state
Got it.
inspection and all that.
Understood.
When we did this agreement here in early March, I think it was, we noted that we had about 6 ton left of salt in that storage facility. So that allowed us to figure out how much we needed to order for this upcoming contract. So that's where we get the salt yet to be delivered was 22 ton. The early fill is 44 ton, and then guaranteed seasonal fill is 66 ton, and then with a 22 ton as sort of that optional
So
purchase.
my question, are we buying 66 ton, or are we buying 66 plus 22?
Yeah, so 66 is the minimum that we have to purchase
Okay.
for the season, yes. And then that can fluctuate based on, say, we have a really dry year, we don't have a lot of snow, we don't use a lot of salt. Next time we order, then we base it on what our capacity is to use up what we already have, so that number could
Okay.
drop to what
Okay.
we actually,
Okay.
our minimum would be, yeah. I just want to make sure everybody understood how
But the
this was
22
working.
doesn't have to be purchased, that's my
No,
question.
that's an optional
Okay,
purchase.
thank
That's
you.
if we have a really heavy snow
Yep.
year, or, yeah,
And they're guaranteeing they'll have that 22 for us.
right.
Okay,
They like to be able to have some numbers in place so they know
Yep.
what to have.
thank
Yeah.
you.
So that's what that was.
Thank you for the education.
I'm not the best to educate on it, but I'm trying to pass it on, because that's really the chairman role on that one, so.
We'll get that under the umbrella. Discussion or decision requiring permits for companies using town boat launches for install of private piers, boat lifts, etc. Work, riprap work. You had a brief conversation with,
Alex Brooks?
Yes.
Is the one that responded, I believe. It basically is no, you can't do that. We can require that they purchase the annual launch permit to use when they're doing that, but we cannot say you have to have, in addition to that launch permit, we can't say we have to license you to allow you to do your business on the lake, is how I interpret it. Is that how you interpret it as well, Kyle?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to work with the Wisconsin Towns Association legal team to try to figure out some other options of how we can do it. It's all about labeling, because, even the truck that backed down our brand new boat launch,
Yeah.
was he overweight for that, right? For the capacity? I don't know if I have a picture of it, but should have sent it to you guys, but
Yeah, I mean,
it was a truckload full of rocks backed up to the barge. unloading those rocks onto the barge. But it was down the launch, wheels in the water almost. Is there some kind of guideline or something we can enforce on
So you're
that?
thinking like maybe a weight limit?
Right.
Or maybe a time limit of how long they?
Yeah, that was the other thing. It
utilize?
was there for almost an hour.
Yeah.
Trying to load and unload that, and it tied up our entire dock. So I don't know, maybe it's reaching out to the Jefferson County Friends with the Land and Water Conservation to help out with some legality of some of that, who knows? But I am trying to work with the Wisconsin Towns Association to see if there's any redirect that we can do with either a weight limit or something.
Permit to conduct business on the lake.
Yeah.
You can't, that's what you said they can't do.
Yeah.
Anybody can conduct any business they feel like on the lake?
Because
Like
it's under
somebody
the-
rents boats out, they could do it, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
then I think it would have to be an overall requirement, so like every business that's within the town would have to file, for example, a business license with the town, is how I would interpret that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is okay as well.
What comes into the public doctrine for public waterways
Right.
and being able to use.
I would just suggest, if you haven't, reach out to like the town of Oakland and the town of Palmyra, because I mean, they have the two busy lakes that they do a lot of like riprap stuff on at times. And
Yeah.
they might have run into the same issue,
Yeah.
possibly. I don't know. That's my only comment on that.
Good comment. So,
Okay. So as of right now, we don't have to make a decision because we're told no by the DNR.
Okay.
We can't do it.
Okay.
I'm going to continue to research
Thank you.
with some legal recourse because I lost it on that guy. Like, seriously, you've been here for an hour. People want to put their boats in. Like,
And some can't use the smaller launches that we have.
correct.
Right.
And that was the issue. They couldn't use that smaller launch. And they're like, oh, we can move.
I did see him on Sandy Beach launch though this week, so.
Okay, so maybe I'm angry enough, I guess. Discussion for future items, agenda items.
I guess I'd like some of the things that were brought up in the meeting by the public tonight.
Okay.
Um,
Like that.
the Majala Shores erosion and, what the plan is with that park and whether or not, I'd like to move forward with that, considering something can't even be done until next year, it sounds like, and application for grants and.
Is that something the town, or should we direct Joint Rock Lake to work on this?
Either Joint Rock Lake.
You got them to start
or-
with a recommendation? Or just do the.
JRLC, it's a good thing for JRLC,
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's on one of their.
but
agenda
it should
items anyway.
include, there's a waterway that flows into there and there's the shoreline, so there's both of those are eroding
Okay.
and silting up, the lake right there considerably,
So
from
both
the channel anyway.
So both the park shoreline as well as the waterway.
Yeah. They should both be addressed at the same time. There's an engineer working on it.
What else did you have there?
Well, the Quagga mussel brick, I wish we could have approved that at tonight's meeting because
Do we need to approve something like that? That would be my question.
I don't know. I mean, Colton wants to put 3 bricks in the lake next to buoys. I mean, it's fine with me.
Is there
Do we
any
have jurisdiction over
safety
it?
issue you can think
I
of
don't
that we
think
would
there's
need to
anything.
address?
He's gonna have a string that goes straight down from
Right
a
on
buoy.
buoy, yeah.
Okay. I don't
As long as
see
he's
that
not
would
moving the
be
buoys and it's not gonna cause the
anything that
buoy
we
to
have to
move.
necessarily
Okay.
approve.
Yeah.
I
All
can't
right.
think of any reason
So
why.
Colton, does it still make sense to do it this year?
Yeah, I can still put them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would just.
Okay.
There's foreseeable future and stuff.
So I guess the motion would be.
No, there's no motion.
We don't even need a
You
motion.
can't make
We
it,
don't
it's
have
not on the agenda
jurisdiction.
to
Okay.
decide anything, it's just,
And what was the thing somebody asked me if we had jurisdiction over? Oh, the fish sticks, what they
Yeah.
call the fish sticks.
Yeah,
So you just directed them to talk to the DNR and get permits.
right, that
So
one I think would be a
That's-
DNR.
Yeah, so that's the end of that for
Right.
us, right? And then Susan talked about a sign putting, I don't know, I guess I'd like to approve that. I don't know what the sign looks like though. She wants to
Right.
put another sign up on the EIS sign?
Yeah, I think that's the one that she's talking about. It's like a QR code. It says like scan here to learn more instructions. I can't remember exactly what it looks like.
It's pretty
I think,
typical
yeah,
that we
you'd
would
wanna-
review that and then.
We would have to
Okay,
review that.
so I'd like that in the meeting then, that they show it to us and we approve it, like what's it gonna look like on the sign, and what's it gonna say?
Yeah, the information, where's it
Yeah.
linked to, what's it,
And I don't want to bog this up. Is that something that should go to Joint Rock Lake first, or are we going to decide as a board that it just comes directly to the board to expedite it?
I think it can come directly to the
Okay.
board.
All right.
do you have any issue with that? Or?
No, I don't.
I think we
Okay.
can decide on that fairly quickly, as long as they provide the accurate information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe they include a code to show them how to wash a boat with
That's
the
what I'm
tools
guessing.
provided.
Yeah.
Any additional agenda items for you?
Well, the discussion, the public comment on, the emptying of the, I guess the wastewater or the manure pits by daybreak.
I mean, isn't it poop water? I mean, talk about the fact that there's E. coli in it and high nitrate levels when it's wastewater from a chicken farm. I think that's the definition of what it is.
Yes.
So, right? Unless
I think that-
unless I misunderstand what they
From my
meant by
understanding,
wastewater.
that water is there is from their processing plant.
The
Correct.
wash water.
The
Right.
wash water
Yeah.
from
Yep.
the egg breaking facility.
Okay.
Right.
Sort of like the manure pit is your black tank on your camper, where this is the gray
Gray
water.
water.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Is how I
Correct.
understood it.
And I just think with their nutrient management plan, yeah, I don't know if there's, items to discuss regarding it. I think I would just like some more information on
Yeah, I don't know.
what exactly is happening, and especially if they're land applying, I
Would
just,
it be prudent to ask Daybreak to come and explain what they're doing? I mean, what is it that the board would like to see?
Yeah, I think
from this?
the explanation of what that
Correct,
what that is in
correct.
their testing requirements through the DNR, I
Right.
guess.
and if they're allowed, if the DNR has approved them for land application of the wastewater, what are the parameters around that?
So
I mean,
more of
when-
an informational.
Yeah.
Correct. On some of these things, like if you're, there's only so many feet of hose you can run and those types of things when you're emptying manure pits. So there's gotta be regulations around this land.
I know it doesn't smell like it used to.
No.
I mean, it used to be pretty bad.
So
quite
would
a
this
number of times a year.
be something that should be discussed at a town board meeting, or should this be something the town board helps organize more of a general community informational session? Because it's gonna affect city, Dryden to some degree. Town of Ashland, it sounds like it affects them, town of Lake Mills, so maybe it should be more of just an informational meeting that we help organize?
I think we gotta be educated before we could say this
Okay.
is what needs to happen for the rest of the community surrounding it.
Okay.
Right.
And,
Because we're gonna have a full house when that happens, you know that, right?
we should have a bigger town hall then.
Okay. Okay.
Standing room only.
Okay.
Then we'll ask public opinion about what they think about the town hall today.
All right. Anything else for agenda items?
Meeting scheduled, there is a planning commission for August 5th, 2025. August 7th, 2025 is the Parks Committee at 7 p.m., both at the Town Hall. There's also our next meeting, August 12th, here at the Town Hall at 7 p.m., and August 14th at the city for the Joint Rock Lake Committee at 6 p.m.
The other thing I should add is we're gonna have that board review, possible, another bump to another date. But
Yes.
we'll have to have the board review
Yes.
back up on there again.
Okay, that's fine. Not that I had a choice, I guess.
What?
Not that I had a choice, I guess.
No,
It's
not
got-
that one, you
It's
don't.
based on days, right?
Right.
Yeah. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Were we gonna do correspondence?
No, shoot, correspondence.
Oh.
Yes, thank you. That
We-
is fine to do it now, before adjournment.
Okay.
Can we?
What do you got for correspondence?
I don't know if I have any.
Oh, we do discuss, oh, okay. I just need to get it back on there.
What did somebody sent an email about a boat, in shallow water.
Sally Jones,
wakeboarding.
yes.
So, maybe in the future, we should look at addressing wake boats, again.
It was unfortunate, it was a month after she had seen it happen, so
Yeah.
more on top of what's
Yeah.
going on, feedback would be helpful too.
Right,
If something's
right.
occurring, it'd be nice to,
Snap a picture. I don't know if it was a wake
Or a video
boating issue
or-
or was it in a slow no wake issue? That's what I read in that email.
yeah.
Okay.
Was it?
Yeah, they were on both sides of the buoy. Either way, they
Yeah.
were in shallower water.
Sure. Absolutely.
Are
The-
all of you receiving these?
I received
Yes.
one.
Okay,
Yes.
so you're not.
I have not.
Okay, because these are always really helpful. They have a lot of like legal opinions and such in them. So I will make sure you're on that list. You should be, because if they've got them, we should be getting it.
Yeah, I have not gotten that.
Maybe
no.
your kids are reading them and you don't.
It could be, yes.
Yeah, because it's a great read for the kids.
Okay.
I don't have any other correspondences as well. It's just normal stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay.
I don't think.
I will get that back on the agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It has been moved to adjourn tonight's meeting at the town hall. It is 8:55 p.m.
That's a long.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.